why God needs you to be alone before elevation. Solitude is not merely the absence of company, it is the presence of oneself in a way that is often neglected in the rush of daily life. To be alone is to strip away the external distractions, the roles we play, and the expectations imposed upon us. It is to stand naked before existence, facing the raw and unvarnished truth of who we are. In this stillness, a profound alchemy begins to take place. When we are constantly surrounded by others, our minds are often occupied with how we are perceived, what is expected of us, and how we fit into the intricate web of relationships and society. These thoughts, while natural, are like ripples on the surface of a lake. They obscure the depth beneath. Solitude is the stillness that allows those ripples to subside. It is only when the water is calm that we can see clearly to the bottom, revealing the hidden treasures of our own consciousness. In solitude, time itself seems to change. The relentless ticking of the clock that governs our social lives grows quiet. Without the usual demands and distractions, we are no longer running from one task to the next, but are instead invited to simply be. This stillness can feel unsettling at first. Many people avoid being alone because it forces them to confront thoughts and feelings they have buried beneath the busyness of life. But it is precisely in facing these shadows that the greatest transformation occurs. When you sit alone in silence, you may begin to notice the mind's chatter, endless thoughts, worries, and narratives that swirl incessantly. At first, this can seem chaotic, even overwhelming. But as you remain present, as you let the noise play itself out without resistance, a remarkable thing happens: the noise begins to quiet. Beneath the surface noise lies a deeper stillness, a spaciousness that is not dependent on external circumstances. This is the essence of solitude, the recognition that stillness is not something you seek outside yourself, but something you uncover within. In this stillness, you begin to see through the illusion of separateness. The boundaries you once believed defined you, your name, your role, your relationships, are revealed as temporary constructs. Without these labels, you come to know yourself not as a fixed entity, but as something much vaster. This is not a lonely realization, but a liberating one. For in the absence of separation, you feel a profound connection to all things. Solitude becomes the doorway through which you glimpse your oneness with the universe. The stillness of solitude also opens the heart. Without the distractions of the external world, you become more attuned to the subtle movements of your own soul. You may feel a surge of gratitude for the simple fact of being, for the breath that moves through you, for the sunlight that filters through a window. These moments, though quiet and unassuming, are filled with grace. They remind you that life is not something you achieve, but something you participate in. Some might fear that solitude will make them feel small or insignificant. On the contrary, it has the opposite effect. When you let go of the noise and the need for constant validation, you come to realize that your worth is not tied to what you do or how others see you. Your value lies in your very existence, in the miracle of being alive and aware. In this realization, solitude becomes a source of profound strength and clarity. It is in this stillness that the seeds of elevation are sown. Solitude does not isolate you, it integrates you. It brings you back to yourself, to the core of what you are. And from this place of stillness, you rise not as someone seeking to escape the world, but as someone fully present, deeply rooted, and ready to engage with life in its truest, most vibrant form. Detachment from the ego is one of the most challenging and transformative experiences we can undertake. Yet it is essential for true growth. The ego, often misunderstood, is not inherently bad, it is a tool, a construct that helps us navigate the world. It gives us a sense of identity, a me to interact with others and make sense of our experiences. However, when the ego becomes our sole lens for perceiving reality, it distorts our understanding of ourselves and the world. It becomes the source of suffering, conflict, and disconnection. To detach from the ego is not to destroy it, but to see it for what it truly is: a mask we wear, not the face underneath. Most of us live under the illusion that this mask is who we are. We identify with our roles, accomplishments, and possessions. We cling to labels: mother, artist, teacher, entrepreneur, believing they define us. Yet these are mere surface-level aspects of our being, temporary and ever-changing. To attach our sense of self-worth to such fleeting things is to build a house on sand. When the tide comes in, as it inevitably does, we are left adrift, unsure of who we are. Detachment from the ego begins with awareness. It requires us to step back and observe our thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. When you watch your mind in this way, you begin to notice patterns, the incessant need for validation, the fear of rejection, the desire to prove yourself. These patterns are the ego's way of maintaining its grip on you. It tells you you are only as good as your achievements, or you must be liked to be worthy, but when you observe these thoughts without getting swept up in them, something remarkable happens. You start to realize that you are not the thoughts themselves, you are the observer of those thoughts. This realization is the first crack in the ego's facade. It shows you that there is a part of you that is deeper, quieter, and more expansive than the ego. This part is not concerned with proving or protecting itself. It simply is. Some call it the soul, others the higher self, and still others refer to it as pure awareness. Whatever you name it, this is your true essence, untouched by the stories and dramas of the ego. Detaching from the ego does not mean you lose your individuality. Instead, it means you stop being imprisoned by it. You can still play your roles and embrace your unique qualities, but you do so with the understanding that these are not the totality of who you are. This detachment brings freedom. When your self-worth no longer depends on external validation or the fulfillment of certain expectations, you become fearless. You can take risks, face criticism, and even fail without feeling diminished. This process is not without challenges. The ego resists attachment because it thrives on attachment. It clings to its narratives, insisting that without them you are nothing. This resistance often manifests as fear, anger, or confusion. But these emotions are like clouds passing through the sky. They are temporary, and they do not define the vastness of the sky itself. When you stop fighting the ego and simply observe its movements, you rob it of its power over you. One of the profound gifts of detaching from the ego is the deep sense of connection it brings. The ego creates separation. It says, I am here and you are there. I must compete with you to survive. But when you step beyond the ego, you see that this separation is an illusion. You begin to recognize yourself in others and others in yourself. This realization fosters compassion, empathy, and a sense of unity that transcends the superficial divisions of race, culture, and status. Detachment from the ego is not a one-time event, but an ongoing practice. It requires vigilance, patience, and a willingness to let go of what no longer serves you. Yet, with each step, you move closer to the truth of who you are, not the mask, but the essence behind it. And in that essence you discover a peace and freedom that no accomplishment or accolade can ever provide. You discover yourself. Connection with the infinite is an experience that defies precise description, for it is not something the mind can fully grasp or the tongue can adequately convey. It is felt in moments when the boundaries of the self dissolve, and we come to see that what we thought of as I is not separate from the vastness of existence. This realization is both humbling and exhilarating, for it reminds us that we are not isolated fragments, but integral parts of an infinite whole. To begin, consider the way most of us experience life. We move through the world perceiving ourselves as distinct entities, separate from others, from nature, and from the cosmos itself. We build our identities on this foundation of separation, clinging to the idea of individuality as if it were our only anchor in an unpredictable sea. Yet this perception is an illusion that keeps us from understanding the profound truth of our interconnectedness. Connection with the infinite begins with the recognition that what separates us is far less significant than what unites us. The air you breathe has been shared by countless others, the water you drink has flowed through rivers, clouds, and living beings for eons, and the atoms in your body were forged in the heart of ancient stars. Every part of you is made from the same cosmic substance that forms the mountains, the oceans, and the galaxies. To understand this is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is an awakening to the reality that you are, in every sense, a part of the infinite. This connection becomes most apparent in moments of stillness and presence. When we quiet the chatter of the mind and let go of our relentless striving, we begin to feel the pulse of life moving through us. It may arise in the serenity of a sunrise, the rustle of leaves in the wind, or the simple act of sitting in silence. These moments are reminders that the infinite is not something distant or abstract. It is here, now, in every breath and every heartbeat. The ego resists this understanding because it thrives on the illusion of separation. It tells us that to connect with the infinite is to lose ourselves, to dissolve into nothingness. But the truth is quite the opposite. When we let go of the ego's grip, We do not disappear, we expand. We come to see that our true self is not confined to the boundaries of the body or the mind. It is as vast and limitless as the cosmos itself. Connecting with the infinite also transforms the way we relate to the world and to others. When you see yourself as part of an interconnected whole, the boundaries that divide self from other begin to blur. You realize that the suffering of another is not separate from your own, and their joy is your joy. This recognition fosters compassion, not as an obligation, but as a natural expression of your deeper understanding. This connection is not something you need to create, it is already present. The infinite has always been there, waiting for you to notice. It is in the space between your thoughts, in the silence between your words, and in the stillness between your actions. It is the thread that weaves together all existence, the essence that animates every living thing. Some may experience this connection as a sense of divine presence, while others may simply feel an overwhelming awe at the vastness of the universe. However it is perceived, the effect is the same, a profound shift in perspective. You no longer see yourself as a small, isolated being struggling to survive in a chaotic world. Instead, you recognize that you are an expression of the infinite, a wave on the ocean of existence. This connection does not eliminate challenges or hardships, but it changes the way you face them. When you know you are part of something greater, you find strength and resilience in even the most difficult circumstances. You trust in the flow of life, knowing that, like the waves, you are both temporary and eternal. And in that trust, you find a peace that transcends understanding, a peace rooted in the infinite itself. Silence is not merely the absence of noise, it is a profound presence, a doorway to transformation, and a path to inner clarity. In a world filled with constant chatter, external distractions, and the relentless hum of activity, silence is often overlooked or avoided. Yet it is in silence that we find the space to hear what truly matters. It is where purification begins, not through force or effort, but through the gentle unfolding of our deeper selves. When we first enter silence, it can be uncomfortable. The mind, accustomed to constant stimulation, begins to resist. It throws up thoughts, worries, and memories in an attempt to fill the void. This initial turbulence can feel overwhelming, as if silence has amplified the very noise we sought to escape. But this is the first step of purification, bringing to the surface all that we have suppressed, ignored, or avoided. These thoughts and emotions are like sediment stirred up in water, visible only because the stillness allows them to rise. Remaining in silence requires patience and courage. The temptation to distract ourselves can be strong, for silence asks us to confront ourselves without the usual filters. But as we sit with this discomfort, something remarkable happens. The turbulence begins to settle. The mind, no longer fed by constant inputs, starts to quiet. And in that quiet, a deeper stillness emerges, a stillness that is not the absence of activity, but the presence of something vast and profound. This stillness is where purification truly occurs. In silence, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. Without the distractions of the external world, the patterns of our inner world become visible. We notice the repetitive thoughts, the limiting beliefs, and the emotional baggage we carry. And as we observe these with acceptance rather than judgment, they begin to lose their hold on us. The power of silence lies not in fighting these inner obstacles, but in allowing them to dissolve in the light of awareness. Silence also purifies our relationship with time. In the noise of daily life, we are often caught up in the past or the future, regretting what has been or worrying about what is to come. Silence brings us back to the present moment, reminding us that life is happening here and now. This return to presence is a form of purification, for it frees us from the weight of time and anchors us in the eternal now. Moreover, silence reconnects us with our natural rhythm. Just as a body needs rest to heal and rejuvenate, the mind and spirit need silence to restore balance. In this state of quiet, we become attuned to the subtler aspects of our being. We notice the ebb and flow of our breath, the beating of our heart, and the aliveness within us. These are reminders of the miracle of existence, often drowned out by the noise of our busy lives. Silence also opens the door to deeper listening, not only to ourselves but to the world around us. When the mind is quiet, we hear the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant song of a bird, or the rhythm of raindrops against a window. These sounds, so easily missed, carry a profound simplicity that mirrors the essence of life itself. They remind us that purification is not about becoming something new, but about returning to what we have always been. Through silence, we come into contact with a sense of sacredness that transcends words. This sacredness is not confined to any particular belief or practice. It is the universal truth that arises when we strip away the noise and distractions. It is the realization that beneath the layers of thought, identity, and experience lies a pure, unchanging essence, a core of stillness and peace. Purification through silence is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. It requires regular practice and a willingness to embrace discomfort. But each moment spent in silence brings us closer to our true selves. It clears the clutter of the mind, heals the wounds of the heart, and reconnects us with the infinite source of life. In silence, we do not lose ourselves, we find ourselves. And in that finding, we are transformed. Listening to the divine whisper is a subtle, transformative practice that requires not only stillness, but also an openness of heart and mind. In the cacophony of modern life, the voice of the divine often goes unheard, drowned out by the noise of our thoughts, desires, and external distractions. Yet this whisper is always present, gently calling us back to our true nature, offering guidance, wisdom, and solace. To hear it is not a matter of forcing or striving. It is a process of attuning ourselves to the quiet, sacred rhythm of existence. The divine whisper is not like ordinary speech. It does not come in loud proclamations or dramatic revelations. It is soft, subtle, and delicate, a quiet knowing that arises when the mind is still and the heart is receptive. This is why listening to it requires us to cultivate silence, both externally and internally. In a world that values busyness and noise, creating this silence can feel counterintuitive. But it is only in the quiet spaces of our lives that we can hear what truly matters. When we first attempt to listen for the divine whisper, we might feel frustrated. The mind, accustomed to constant activity, will fill the silence with chatter, questions, doubts, and distractions. This is normal. The mind resists quiet because it fears losing its dominance. But if we remain patient and gentle with ourselves, the noise begins to subside. As it does, we discover a deeper stillness beneath the surface, a stillness in which the whisper can be heard. This whisper often comes not as words, but as a feeling, an intuition, or a subtle shift in perspective. It might manifest as a sense of clarity about a decision, a sudden insight into a problem, or a deep inner peace that defies explanation. It is less about telling us what to do and more about guiding us toward alignment with our higher self and the flow of life. It speaks the language of the soul, not the intellect, and it communicates truths that resonate deeply within us. Listening to the divine whisper also requires trust. In our culture of logic and analysis, we are taught to question everything and seek tangible evidence before we act. But the divine does not operate on the level of proof, it operates on the level of faith and intuition. To follow its guidance often means stepping into the unknown, letting go of our need for control, and trusting that we are being led in the right direction. This can feel uncomfortable, even frightening, but it is in this act of surrender that we open ourselves to the miraculous. The whisper is also deeply personal. It does not come to everyone in the same way, for it speaks to the unique essence of each individual. For some, it may arise in moments of prayer or meditation. For others, it might be felt in nature, in the beauty of a sunset or the stillness of a forest. It can be found in art, music, or the quiet intimacy of human connection. The divine is not confined to any single form or context. It is present everywhere, waiting for us to notice. One of the most profound aspects of listening to the divine whisper is the way it transforms our relationship with life. When we attune ourselves to this quiet guidance, we begin to see the world through different eyes. We recognize the interconnectedness of all things and feel a deep sense of gratitude for the simple, often overlooked moments. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable become opportunities for growth, and ordinary experiences take on a sacred quality. The practice of listening to the divine whisper is not about perfection. There will be times when we are too distracted, too anxious, or too disconnected to hear it. But the divine is patient. It does not abandon us when we falter. It waits gently and lovingly for us to return to the stillness where it resides. Each time we make the effort to listen, we deepen our connection with it, and in doing so, we deepen our connection with ourselves. Ultimately, listening to the divine whisper is not about finding answers or solutions. It is about cultivating a relationship with the infinite. It is about remembering that we are never truly alone, that we are always supported by a presence greater than ourselves. And as we listen, we are transformed not by the whisper itself, but by the space it creates within us to align with the truth, wisdom, and love that have been there all along. Transformation is not merely an option in life, it is a necessity, an inherent part of existence. Everything in the universe is in a constant state of change, from the tiniest atom to the grandest galaxy. Life itself is a journey of transformation, a process of continuous becoming. Yet for many of us, change is something we resist. We cling to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves us, out of fear of the unknown. But transformation is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. It is through transformation that we grow, evolve, and step into the fullness of who we are. At its core, transformation is a process of shedding what no longer aligns with our true essence. It is the butterfly emerging from the cocoon, the seed breaking open to become a tree. This process is often uncomfortable, even painful, because it requires us to let go of what we have known and to step into uncertainty. But it is in this discomfort that the greatest growth occurs. Just as a muscle must be stretched and strained to become stronger, our souls must undergo periods of challenge and change to expand. Transformation begins with self-awareness. Before we can change, we must first recognize the areas of our lives that no longer resonate with our deepest truth. This requires honesty and courage. It means looking at ourselves without judgment, acknowledging our fears, our limitations, and the ways we may have been holding ourselves back. This process can be humbling, but it is also empowering. For when we see ourselves clearly, we open the door to possibility. We realize that we are not defined by our past or our circumstances, we are defined by our ability to grow beyond them. One of the most profound aspects of transformation is that it often arises from moments of difficulty or crisis. When life challenges us, it pushes us out of our comfort zones and forces us to confront parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore. While these moments may feel overwhelming, they are also opportunities for profound growth. They strip away the superficial and bring us face to face with what truly matters. They remind us of our resilience, our capacity to adapt, and our ability to find meaning even in the midst of chaos. Transformation is not a linear process. It does not happen all at once, nor does it follow a straight path. It is a journey of ups and downs, breakthroughs and setbacks. There will be times when we feel as though we are making great strides, and times when we feel as though we are stuck or even moving backward. But every step, no matter how small, is part of the journey. Even the moments of stagnation serve a purpose, allowing us to integrate what we have learned and prepare for the next phase of growth. An essential aspect of transformation is the willingness to let go. Often the things that hold us back are not external circumstances, but internal attachments to old identities, limiting beliefs, or ways of being that no longer serve us. Letting go can be difficult because it requires us to trust in the unknown. But when we release what no longer aligns with our true selves, we create space for something new to emerge. We open ourselves to possibilities we could not have imagined. Transformation is also deeply interconnected with purpose. As we grow and evolve, we come closer to understanding who we are and why we are here. This clarity of purpose gives our lives direction and meaning. It helps us navigate challenges with a sense of alignment and integrity, knowing that every step we take is part of a greater journey. Ultimately, transformation is not about becoming someone else, it is about becoming more fully ourselves. It is about peeling back the layers of conditioning, fear, and doubt to reveal the essence of who we are at our core. This process is not easy, but it is profoundly rewarding. For in transforming ourselves, we do not only change our own lives, we also contribute to the transformation of the world around us. Our growth inspires others, our courage uplifts them, and our authenticity creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond what we can see. Transformation is life's way of teaching us that we are not static beings but dynamic, ever-evolving expressions of the infinite. It reminds us that we are not bound by the limitations of the past, but are capable of becoming something greater. And in embracing this truth, we step into the fullness of our potential, not only for our own sake, but for the sake of all that is.